Oh, Daniel, I wouldn't have thought this could happen here in Philadelphia. Especially in 1838. The Pennsylvania Hall is just a sooty shell of what it was, what it could have been. We've been friends for well over 50 years. I do not lose hope easily, but today I feel betrayed. I thought that most people believed, like you and me, that Africans should be a part of this society because we are this society. I still remember when first we met on that prison ship, the Jersey, during the war, inside that rotting hull. Were we not all the same? We were all taken prisoner for the liberty of our country. And then in the face of sickness and death, none was more significant than another. And we had hope. You remember how we all relied on one another just the same? I remember how you fit in that sea chest beneath those stinking clothes and got away. It was never any question that we would be friends. Yet this society rejects the idea that we should even be here together, or that I should vote, or be a full citizen. So, no, I should not be surprised by what's happened of late. Although it does take the wind out of my sails. I wish they could see what we see. As a man of property and wealth in Philadelphia, I have earned the right to vote. I have over 30 white men in my employ. I have the ear of prominent politicians and mayors. I have influence. So I thought. No right is secure so long as we take it for granted. I should have known it was only a matter of time. So long as the blight of slavery remains, so too will the fear of our elevation in this society. You remember after the war, William, my brother-in-law, took me to London. I was only there a year, but what a year it was. I was 18, fresh from my privateering voyages and those long months on the Jersey. I was ready to see the world. Upon my return, I was convinced that we free Africans could rise above our allotted station, just as I saw on the streets of London. I came back inspired, determined, more like it. So I went back to Robert Bridges, my father's old boss, with my new sailing knowledge. I had helped my father and Bridges sail off before going to sea, but this was something new, an apprenticeship. And when I realized that Bridges did not intend for his sons to take over the business, well, I made up my mind that I would. I was honored that Bridges saw my potential and that he treated me like the rest of his apprentices. Of course, working with Bridges was mutually beneficial. I was trained to work on just about any rig that fit pretty much any boat or ship that needed a sail. I learned to use the tools that my father had once wielded. And to judge the quality of material. See, it's the design and the canvas and the craftsmanship that could make or break a business. Yeah. As for Bridges' side of the bargain, well, he made sales. But he'd hardly been to sea. My work on the Royal Lewis and the Commerce, it proved more useful than I could have imagined. See, knowing how sales work under the pressure of varying sea conditions was invaluable. It strengthened the quality of Bridges' sales. So I rapidly rose in position in the loft. After the apprenticeship, I became a journeyman and then a junior partner. I oversaw both the white and African men. So much progress. I had advanced far beyond my father at this point. Bridges, well, he was better to me than I could have imagined, introducing me to merchants and tradesmen, investing me with responsibility in the shop. Yeah. He even helped me buy my first home. Now, how could anyone ever forget the first land they owned? Well, we hadn't been in our home a full year when the yellow fever epidemic broke out in the spring of 1793. It changed everything. Most anyone with money fled the city. Businesses were closed. According to the renowned Dr. Benjamin Rush, well, Africans had some secret immunity. He asked if the African community could care for the families of the sick and bury the dead, regardless of their race. To whom much is given, much will be required. So our people rose to the occasion for the good of Philadelphia, which was our nation's capital. That same year that Africans gave their lives to comfort and attend to the families of the sick and dying, old Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act right here in the very same city. Yeah. My family may not have been enslaved, but we sure look like people who were. What were we to do to protect ourselves from ambitious or immoral men who might kidnap any African in the North and claim that they were a slave? After 13 years, Bridges transferred the loft to me when he retired. In addition to the books and the clients, I acquired the contracts for Bridges' white apprentices. I immediately took them into my household and became responsible for their education in the trade. The white journeymen, meanwhile, had plenty of work. Yeah, but they were apprehensive. See, it was the novelty of the situation. I was a black man taking over a successful business, and it had seldom been done. I never thought that my race mattered in the loft. That was naive. Working under a black man would always matter for these men. And now I was the owner and the master apprentice. Gaining their respect would be a lifelong project, but If Robert Bridges could keep the loft afloat, so could I. I was determined to care for my company, the apprentices, the journeymen, and their families. By the turn of the century, thousands of free Africans lived in Philadelphia. Every day, more of our people arrived here fleeing slavery. Some stayed with success, while others have struggled. But where else should they go but to the birthplace of liberty? Our state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, has always been at the forefront of liberty. In fact, it was Pennsylvania that led the charge for gradual abolition back in 1780. But here today, in our city of brotherly love, attacks on our communities by white mobs escalates daily. The legislature dared to entertain a bill that would ban African migrants coming from the South and even require registration for those of us already living here, free citizens. Kidnappers stealing and enslaving free Africans to make a profit plagues this city. It is inhumane and unconstitutional to deny a free man his rights and liberties, leaving him prey to such people. Well, the bill failed, but the debates continue. I married Charlotte, and the following year, we had our first child and moved to our new home on Lombard Street, where our family continued to grow. We had 8 more children, and I was no longer just James Forten, a sailmaker. My business was James Forten and Sons, a family business. Even so, my son was recently attacked by a white mob. Yeah, I may not have been enslaved, but no person deserves to walk in fear of slavery. That's why, Daniel, I wrote my pamphlets, Letters from a Man of Color. I had to speak out. Now, are there members of our community who are rogues, disingenuous, and unvirtuous? Yes, of course there are. But I remind people that we're all created in the same manner. We all love and are wounded in the same ways. But most important, we are all sustained by the same heavenly power. Perhaps the solution was not integration after all. Now, my dear friend, Captain Paul Cuffey, introduced me to immigration. He was a ship owner and a merchant from New England. We had a lot in common. Both black men, free, financially successful, with connections to the maritime trades. Paul asked for contacts among free Africans of good moral standing, willing to settle in the West African British colony of Sierra Leone. Oh yes, Africa. Here was a chance to help people who wanted to return to their homeland. The project promised to provide free Africans with education, trade, and other economic opportunities. And it might just give some of our people, Africans in America, a chance to finally escape once and for all. But then I got the terrible news that Paul had died. I knew his last shaky letter spoke of a worsening condition, but who would pick up that mantle? Unfortunately, we soon knew the answer. Colonization was no longer a collective effort between free Africans and white abolitionists. It was no longer a conversation about simply voluntarily leaving these United States. Prominent white men, many of them slave owners themselves, were now leading the discussion calling for the complete expulsion of free Africans from the country. Now, as long as the conversation was about voluntarily immigrating free Africans, either desiring to return home or seeking new opportunities for advancement, I gave my support. But these new directions convinced me otherwise. And what about free Africans themselves? Well, we organized a meeting at Bethel Church to hear from our community in 1817. 3,000 people came. And when asked to pass judgment on the colonization project, the church rang with a resounding no. After all, many of us, most of us, are no more African than are white Americans European. This is the only land we know. Why should we leave? We have toiled and striven to establish ourselves. I have property here, a successful business. My children are fifth-generation inhabitants of this land, much longer than many of the white men who propose we leave. Instead, this country would send us to some foreign and harsh climate so that others could enjoy the freedoms and liberties that our mothers and fathers worked, fought, and died for. Daniel, they have forgotten. They've forgotten already the brave African soldiers who fought in the Revolution. The Rhode Island Regiment, as brave men as ever fought. They marched through these streets with General Washington. But so soon had the people forgotten the faces that were of a darker hue than my own, who dotted the Schuylkill River to fortify this city during the War of 1812. But so soon has this city and this state forgotten. Or did they ever know? After all, are we allowed to be American? It seems that the older this country becomes, the more it tries to deny our rightful claim to citizenship. And I believe now more than ever that it's not until slavery is abolished that white men will have to regard us as equals. It's no secret that I've participated in reform and abolitionist societies for decades. My wife and children have joined the abolitionist effort. Charlotte and my daughters, Margaretta, Harriet, and Sarah Louisa, helped form the Philadelphia Female Anti-Slavery Society. Sarah Louisa writes poetry. You know, the Liberator published some of her poems and short stories. And as for Harriet and her husband, Robert Purvis, well, they helped to relocate enslaved Africans seeking their freedom. So, I guess it is their time now more than it is ours. Things aren't the same as when we were younger. We were united fighting for our country's life, liberty, and happiness against a foreign enemy. But today, now, I guess most of Our nation's great founders, most of the old soldiers of the Revolution, have passed away. Today's battles are waged in hearts and in minds, not out on the sea. The opposition is our neighbor. Yeah, this is a different generation, a new generation, one that's detached from the same spirit that drove our fight for independence. I can't help but think that things were clearer when the common enemy was British tyranny. With every advance in the cause of abolition, there is a reaction. Many places, even churches, refuse to host our meetings for fear of reprisal. That's why, Daniel, we built our own hall, this hall. The name was an obvious choice, the Pennsylvania Hall. The building was befitting of its name. As fine an addition to our city as the State House or the banks. The Pennsylvania Hall was our temple of freedom, a place open to all. But as soon as it went up, so did the broadsheets and editorials, the street corner conversations condemning it. Now, I thought that we'd be fine hosts for a convention of female abolitionists. The city's mob felt otherwise. They sacked the hall, destroying our temple of liberty. Then they set it ablaze. I watched as it burned. I've risked my life for this country. I've fought. I've worked hard. I've been both a moral and social pillar in my community, a representative of Africans and an ambassador. Yet for all the hard work, all the sacrifice, seems as futile as the ashes of Pennsylvania Hall. Tell me, is it the clothes that make the man, or his color? Is it his valor or his race? If it is clothes, then why are we reviled even when we wear fine suits? If it's valor, why are we reviled even when we sacrifice our lives for our country? Oh, our beloved city thinks that it is the color of a man that makes the man, but I know otherwise. Inside this fine suit is nothing but a man, an African, I'll grant you, but an American too. I lived my life proving it. I've lived to see the revolution ebb and flow. And I know that it's not the clothes or the vote or the building that makes a man. After 72 years, I'm still fighting to prove it. But you know, Daniel, I still have hope. I am a tired old man, but I still have hope. Our friendship gives me hope. My children have picked up the mantle of these causes, and that gives me hope. You and I both know that not every voyage has smooth sailings. Not every battle can be won. But one day, Daniel, one day, maybe something even greater can rise from these ashes.